Hello, how y'all doing today? My name is Daryl Frazier, and here I'm giving my speech on the impact of sports on the civil rights movement and the men and women who help change society through their performances. Sports has a way to bring people together. It's not uncommon for people to show their emotions, whether they're happy that their team scored a touchdown or they're upset that they missed a game-winning shot. Fans from many different backgrounds, economic, racial, they and social, they often come together to these sporting events and for a common goal, and that's to cheer their favorite team on to victory. Sports has also been a platform to promote social and economic social change and racial change. It's sort of been a reflection on society. Actually, back to the early to mid 19th century, there was an idea of white supremacy in sports. Many professional leagues were segregated, and that changed with Dodgers owner Branch Rickey with his idea of a noble experiment. Prior to Jackie Robinson's debut in 1947, baseball was divided by all-white major leagues and the Negro leagues, which held not just black players but Latinos and other baseball players of ethnic background. But because baseball at the time was considered America's pastime, Rickey, he thought that he can help change society through baseball, and so he took a flyer on Jackie Robinson, and although Robinson faced a ton of discrimination from the fans, the media, the opponents, and even his teammates, the experiment was a success, and because those who wouldn't normally dine with blacks or drink from the same water fountains, now they would actually pay money to go see him play. So, eventually his career was a success, and he ended up inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. Wilma Rudolph was considered arguably one of the best female track runners of all time. She back in 1956, her and her team won bronze in a 4x1 relay. But she really rose to prominence in 1960, where she took home 3 gold medals in the 100-meter relay, the 200-meter relay, and she also won the team gold medal in the 4x1 relay. And her teammates were the same girls that she ran back in college at Tennessee State. But after her celebration was short-lived, kind of, because upon returning back home, there was due to Jim Crow laws, blacks and whites weren't allowed to, come together for a celebration. So she protested her coming home celebration because she protested her coming home celebration because of the Jim Crow laws, and she chose not to attend, even though the celebration was intended for her. But after she still was an advocate for civil rights after she retired from track and field, and she also was a real big supporter on blacks going to college and furthering their education. And everybody know the greatest Muhammad Ali, born Cassius Clay. He was one of the more celebrated athletes, one of the more outspoken athletes. His reign as a heavyweight champion coincided with the civil rights movement when he beat Sonny Liston for the heavyweight title in 1964. He joined the Nation of Islam, which at the time was viewed as led by Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad, was viewed as kind of a racial and a terrorist and a militant group. And his personal beliefs led to him dodging the draft for the Vietnam War, because he felt like no Vietnamese person, he believed, why would he fight when no Vietnamese person has ever looked at him in the face and called him an N-word. So, and that was his, reference to the treatment that many African Americans were experimenting, back at home. And because dodging the draft is a federal offense, he had to serve 3 years in jail. And because of his jail sentence, he was stripped from his heavyweight titles. But he eventually came back and retook the throne and had a successful career until he retired in 1981. But another accomplishment that he did, he led the Black Athlete Summit, which was all the top athletes from that era. They would come together and they would discuss some of the things that they faced not only on the playing field but back at home. And it was kind of rare because you never really saw that many prominent athletes in one room at one time, and you probably won't see that today. You really never seen like a LeBron or Kobe or Floyd Mayweather come into the room and for something like this, you probably won't see it again. Any questions?
You never see. I got a question.
All right.
You say you'll never see LeBron, Mayweather.
But not those athletes in general. I'm talking about the top athletes.
Yeah. Come into a room like this. Why would you? Why?
Because I feel like it's kind of, well, I will say this. They do, like, okay, LeBron, for example, when the dude in New York got choked out, remember they wore the I Can't Breathe shirts.
Right.
But there's so much you can do because you can't go too far nowadays because there's so much corporate involvement in sports. You can't really anger too many people because that's funding right there. Look how the Clippers and Donald Sterling, soon as they ruffle a couple people's feathers, they pull sponsors. That's you're losing money, and it's really not. You can still do a noble thing, but you slip up and say the wrong thing, and then everything is going to come crashing down. And that's why some people don't speak out the way they should. But because back in the 50s and 60s, there wasn't as much corporate involvement in sports. So
they had too much to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything to gain. Okay, I understand. Next question.
Is there any funding from any of these sports celebrities or whatever? Is there any funding that you know of that they have for like education or anything for students?
Well, I do know that the NBA they often go to the communities, read to the children, and a lot of athletes have their own personal charities that they do that they like to give back to the community. I know Dwayne Wade, he got a couple a lot of charities down in Miami, and then he got a lot of charities back home in Chicago. So I know athletes, they got the image of they flossing, they got a lot of money, they like to show it off, but a lot of them do really give back to the community because a lot of them come from rough backgrounds, so they understand that even though they came from a rough background, they did get that support, and they do see the positives of either getting an education or finding something you're good at, sports being that outlet. So they try to encourage other kids to do so. So they they do stuff like Magic Johnson. He's another athlete that's big on giving back to the community.
And how do you feel if a lot of them came together and did something big for communities or a certain cause? How you personally, how do you think that would turn out? Do you think that's a good idea?
I think it's a great idea because with a lot of stuff that's going on in the urban areas, I feel like people only come together when it's an issue. Well, I feel like if some of these athletes can come together, then they can work on ways to prevent some of those issues, happening. Like, for example, well, it's not education-wise, but PE is kind of, like physical education is kind of on a decline in this country. So if you know, a couple athletes, for example, they can come with a plan to go to like some of these urban areas and help build some, you know, a basketball court, you know, rec center, then it'll give, you know, kids in a certain neighborhoods, you know, something to do. So the outlet instead of, you know, trying to, you know, run rampant. Okay. Yeah, that's my speech, and that's my speech, you know, on the impact of sports on the civil rights movement, and those were the trailblazers who, you know, who helped, you know, change society and help pave the way for the athletes that, you know, that we watch on TV today. And so thank you for your time, and that's my speech. Any applause, Grandpa?